Village of Royal Palm Beach Council Workshop meeting to order. It is Thursday, May the 8th, 2025. It is now 6:30 p.m. If you all will stand and join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I'm sorry?
Broadcast mode. I didn't hear.
Oh,
okay.
I did hit it, but I don't know why.
Yeah, it's not up. Well, yeah, on there. We're on.
Didn't hear. It's okay.
Okay, thank you. So our meeting tonight is an interesting meeting. This is the first time in a long time we've actually done a workshop that wasn't about the budget. So we'll get into that in a moment. Madam Clerk, let the record show that all members of the council are present.
Mr. Mayor, well.
Very much. And so I'd like to start off with just a few comments, probably more to set the stage. Again, since we haven't really done this in a while, in fact, I asked someone about it and I was told they thought that the last time we did a workshop for the council with it not being about the budget was about 2005 or 2006. So it's been a while. For me, it's been never. And I think for the majority of us, therefore, getting on board with this approach, which I think is going to be an excellent opportunity for us, not only on this particular topic, but perhaps on other topics as well further down the road. So let me just start off with a little bit of general stuff. Workshops are to provide information and often in depth on really important matters. And they are followed usually by a full and open discussion involving all of the council members. And the idea is to strive for a consensus on further action on those matters. And then, of course, to provide direction to the staff in that regard if there is any appropriate action to be done. It is different, obviously, than former council meetings. At council meetings, that's where we do make decisions. At the workshop, it's where we have conversations, discussions, and become informed about important issues. As I said, second tonight, we'll strive to build a consensus on the direction to be given to the staff for each agenda item regarding the village support to Royal Palm Beach schools, which is why we're here this evening. In workshops as regular council meetings, we will follow the published agenda in a way to ensure that every council member gets a chance to be heard. And that, again, we have an opportunity to reach a consensus on follow-up action. We'll be, of course, using Robert's rules as guidelines. And I want to mention also that, as we do during normal regular council meetings, tonight we will walk through each agenda item one at a time. After I read the agenda item, I will begin the discussion doing something a little bit different, but I think we've done this before, and that is turn to each council member at the very beginning and ask for a few initial comments to let us all know where each one of us is coming from on that particular agenda item, and then we can open it up to further discussion. As we normally do too in regular council meetings, I ask that each council member seek to be recognized before speaking so we make sure we have time and the opportunity for everybody to be heard. As I said before, tonight's workshop is convened to provide additional direction to the staff on the topic of village support to Royal Palm Beach schools. This topic was considered a strategic planning priority by the council, and as you all know, was addressed at the Citizen Summit, where we got some interesting input, which we will take advantage of. So without further ado, the next item on the agenda is statements from the public. So I will open the floor for public comment. Do we have any cards, Madam Clerk?
No, Mayor.
Mr. Manager, do we have any hands raised?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Not seeing any public comments or anyone seeking to place a comment, I will close the floor to public comment. And I will now turn the floor over to the village manager. He's going to provide us with some background information and additional information, including some of the information that we gathered from municipalities as to how they support their various schools. So, Mr. Manager, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. The way this agenda was set up was it reflects the two goals that you have, or two action items you have in two separate goals in your strategic plan. As you know, our first goal is finance, and that's where this first one falls. And that, so and then the second one is in goal 4, and is more specific about achieving A-rated schools. So in the strategic planning session for 2025, Village Council discussed and prioritized support for our local schools. The workshop is to discuss council's desired school support, discuss best practices, provide staff direction, and potentially funding to be included in the 26 budget. The Village currently provides financial, personnel, and shared facility use support in the following ways. Financially, we do 10 1,000 college scholarships a year to Village of Royal Palm Beach residents, of which 4 must go to Royal Palm Beach High School. We also, in support of our Arbor Day and our Tree City USA certification that we get, we provide 5 $200 donations to $200 donations to 5 different schools as it relates to Arbor Day, and it has to be something related with landscaping, trees, and things like that. The scholarships are guaranteed by the council in allocating funds in the budget. We do have a mayor's golf tournament that we have used to make for revenue for that. I will say that we really don't charge a lot on our 4th of July golf tournament, so it hasn't been a huge fundraiser. I think we're still at $75, $100 for play. I know in most fundraising golf tournaments, you're looking at $250, $300 a round, and we have not chosen to do that. So, but the bottom line is the Village Council, through budgeting, guarantees 10 $1,000 scholarships to at least 4 students that go to Royal Palm Beach High School. All of them have to live in Royal Palm Beach. The others can go to any of the magnet schools. When it comes to personnel commitment to the local schools, we do have an active education advisory board. The EAP meets once a month with the exception of the summer months. The purpose and the mission of the education advisory board is to serve as a liaison group between the Village of Royal Palm Beach and our local schools. In order to improve communication between the schools and the Village of Royal Palm Beach, to promote and provide public awareness for programs within the schools, to recognize and promote accomplishments of students, educators, public schools and charter schools located within the village, and to monitor school district activities and report on those impacting the village. And it really has been an excellent venue for showcasing the excellence of our public schools. The schools have embraced that. They've taken that opportunity. The administrators show up, and I think it's really become a very positive forum for showcasing the excellence out of our schools. The third area is in a shared facility use. We've had a shared facility use agreement with the school board for over 25 years. We recently added to that our stage at Commons Park for large performances that couldn't be handled at Commons Park or at Cultural Center or at the school's facilities. I think we've all come to realize after last year doing that, it was very successful. And I think there are over 500 people showing up at each one of the performances. And I really can't think of a better venue than Commons Park for something like that. And it works very, very well. We also have a shared facility at Royal Palm Elementary. That was a facility that from the very beginning, it was extracted out of the Madison Green development as a code requirement for public land dedication. We did get that 15-acre site, and in that 15-acre site, half of it is the school and the parking lot, and the other half are the softball fields and the all-purpose field. We do maintain those fields, and the school has that's a separate agreement from the shared use agreement. In that agreement, we agreed to maintain those athletic facilities and the field. And the school has assured us access after school closes and on the weekends. And that has worked very well with the school. There are other things we do that, we have the sheriff's office for our police service. So they do coordinate with the school resource officers, but they're not in there like a school police department or a city police department may be. I don't know if you remember several years ago, there was a state law passed that said that you had to have a certified officer in all the schools. Palm Beach County having their own police department in their school system was easily able to take care of that. But in some of the cities, they have resource officers that are providing that service. But our sheriff's office does coordinate with them. They do the bike safety and helmet program. And obviously we support the sheriff's office in our contract with the crossing guards to support our schools. And that's basically a summary of what we do in coordination with the schools. I did ask the Palm Beach City County Managers Association. I did get 4 responses. 2 of the responses are from larger cities that have CDBG funding. For example, Wellington, and they're an entitlement city over 50,000 residents, so they get that money direct from the federal government, and they do use that for a lot of their youth programs and their community neighborhood programs that are associated with that department. And also Palm Beach Gardens. The other 2 cities were Lantana and Green Acres, which are not over 40,000. So we'll start with Palm Beach Gardens. They are a full service city. They have their own police and fire department, and they are a city over 50,000. They support the Suits for Seniors, and they provide internships to mentor and train graduating high school seniors on municipal government work within the various city departments. They do provide, the council committed to donating $5,000 per year to local schools, 10 in total. I didn't get what that's specifically for or what it's specifically earmarked for. They didn't identify that. That's something recent that they started in 2023. Over the last 20 years, they've had a Mayor for the Day auction that they do at I think 4 of their schools. That has raised over $24,000 for the schools over the last 20 years in their estimation. And it's just they did give me the activities of the Mayor for the Day. They meet with the Mayor, they receive a city issued photo ID badge. They get to tour the emergency center, tour the 911 dispatch center, and tour the police department and the mobile command post, tour the fire rescue, and attend city council meeting. We get people to pay for that. That's awesome.
A really good auctioneer.
Within the recreation department, they also have an interlocal agreement and a joint use facilities agreement. And they obviously share their fields and things like that. They have a standalone agreement for Liliac baseball field for general maintenance. Is probably something that's a little bit more use than the shared use, kind of like our Royal Palm Beach Elementary School. Let's see. And they participate in the high school magnet advisory board. The fire department does a Heart Safe Schools program within the schools. They also do emergency response team training, which does prepare students for responding to emergencies. They provide hands-on CPR instructions and have a fire safety education and promote career opportunities in the fire service. Some of the bigger cities that I talked to, Boca being one, Palm Beach Gardens being the other, they do use their relationships with their high schools for recruiting future employees. In all their departments, in their maintenance departments, in their fire and police departments. Let's see. Their police department, Palm Beach Gardens Police Department, They assign full-time officers to the three schools located within the city. That's kind of what I was talking about on the state law that changed. And like I said, when some of the city police departments assumed that role, and in Palm Beach Gardens, they did it three schools. And then they have, they're also the school resource officers. They have a police presence and security at after-school sporting events, high school proms. The department also fully funds the school crossing guard program. And the suits for seniors, that the police department is part of that too. They have a non-profit scholarship fund the police department does for supporting high school seniors who are college bound and planning to attend historically Black colleges. And that's it for Palm Beach Gardens. The City of Green Acres, they award 10 $1,500 a year scholarships. They created an education advisory committee in 2023 to support their schools, and each school has a liaison committee members. I know they did a lot of communication with us when they were setting that up. So my guess is there's a lot of similarities between our education advisory board and Green Acres. They do have a shared use agreement. They host a mock city council meeting for LC Swan and MS Pre-Law Academy. They donate $1,000 to John I. Leonard to participate in the Wellington Parade. They donate $250,000 to John I. Leonard for their Academy Awards. They donated another $150 to John I. Leonard for their football band program. And they're working on an agreement with the school district to build a fire station on the campus of John I. Leonard that will include classroom space for the creation of a fire academy. And I think that's going to be a third fire station location for Green Acres. And they participate in career fair days at several of the schools during the school year. Wellington has a department they separated from their recreation department, which is their community outreach department. I can't remember the exact name of it. It's
Something like that.
It's a community neighborhoods department, something like that. They put their youth, a lot of their youth activities there, and they are CDB funded. That some of the positions within that department are CDBG funded. They have a youth council where they plan events and advocate for youth issues. They have an education committee which advises the village council on matters impacting Wellington schools, including school board action, legislation, scholarships, grants, and fostering communication with key decision makers to support educational programs and facilities. Probably similar to our education advisory board. They have the Keeley Spinelli grant. This is the grant that they provide to 11 different schools, about $400,000. They initially started that grant to deal with tutoring for the lower 25%. They have since expanded that to lifting up all the categories of students that they have. The Civics 101, that's Wellington's Tom Atkins Civic 101 program, offers middle school and high school students the chance to engage with elected officials and learn about local government and policy making process. They have a program they call SWAG, Students Working to Achieve Greatness. The Students Working to Achieve Greatness program, established in 2017, aims to empower at-risk high school students through personal and professional development, including college tours, mentoring, internships, and workforce training. A bicycle assistance program, refurbishing unclaimed bikes to provide for local children in need with bicycle helmets. Super Fridays, a weekly event offering a fun and engaging mix of activities and entertainment for the youth. A transportation assistant program, providing transportation options to help youth. Like I said, these were school and youth because it's out of one department. So they just kind of provided me everything they're doing in the youth thing that also crosses with the schools. Volunteer program encourages youth to give back to the community by participating in volunteer opportunities and learning the value of service. The Trent Frazier hosts an annual basketball camp that gives back to the community and promote the sport, helping youth athletes develop skills and fostering teamwork and leadership. HYPE, helping youth by providing empowerment is a tutoring program that supports students with their academic curriculum and prepares them for upcoming assessments, aiming to boost their confidence and success. Cool Keyboards, a music program offering youth the opportunity to learn and perform with keyboards, fostering creativity and music talent. Directing Stars, students will concentrate on learning about the directional process from auditioning to showtime and the difference between stage management and directing. Wow. Keyboard, ABC, a beginner's music program that introduces youth to the basics of playing the keyboards, focusing on building foundational skills. Keyboard and Vocal Arts Camp, developing musical talents. Lights, Camera, Auditions, a program designed to teach youth about the performing arts, including acting, audition techniques. Little Stars, Senior Stars, Teen Stars, Youth Stars, a series of talent programs that allow youth of all ages to showcase their skills. Eco Creation, a hands-on art class where participants can create sustainable crafts. And then Esports, which is an esports program, offers students the opportunity to develop competitive gaming skills, fostering teamwork and participate in organized tournaments. And then the Magnet Hub, a STEM program that provides students with hands-on learning experiences in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, fostering innovation, critical thinking, and problem solving. And last but not least, Lantana. Lantana, local officials attend school advisory council meetings, the SAC meetings. The town recognizes Teacher Appreciation Week with an official proclamation. The town library provides cards to all students in Lantana schools. The town library offers after-school tutoring in partnership with Palm Beach County Literacy Coalition. They participate in the annual Read for the Record, and they participate in the local schools career day events. And that's what I got back from other cities in Palm Beach County.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Do you have any questions about what the village manager just presented? Yes,
Thank you.
Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Liggins. Did you speak to any of the principals? Remember, I had mentioned of our schools to maybe get an idea of what they need or want from the village council. Do they have any ideas of what they would like to see us?
No, I did not speak to
Okay.
any of the principals. I know that we invited Marsha Andrews. That was something that came out of the direction from the last meeting, but I don't remember any other direction.
Yeah, I had mentioned maybe inviting school principals to give them the opportunity to say, you know, exactly what they see.
We did
They'd
not.
like to see.
We did not do that for this meeting.
Okay.
This meeting, I think in my conversations with the mayor, we want to give you guys an opportunity to kind of figure out where you're comfortable before we talk to the others. What you're comfortable doing and committing to before talking to the principals.
Okay.
I think asking them what they want, it might be getting ahead of the game. I'm not saying might not be good for another meeting, but I think this meeting, the five of you as a group need to be comfortable with what you're willing to do.
Okay.
In general.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions? Of
Yes,
the
Mr.
village
Mayor.
manager?
What is CBG?
CDBG, Community Development Block Grants. And what it is, it's a grant program administered by the federal government. And if you're a city over 50,000, you get the deal directly with the federal government as it relates to those block grants. If you're a city under 40,000 in this county, then our money all goes to the county, and then the county decides how to divide it up. And what the county has typically done, or the county does, is they keep the social dollars and they apply that to a lot of the social programs that they offer, and then they share the capital portions of that CDBG with the cities.
And do we get any?
We used to. We haven't anymore mainly because first of all, we don't have any sections of town that meet the financial qualifications for it.
Gotcha.
So it still gave us a small entitlement. The entitlement was I think somewhere around $30,000 or $40,000. And that was never a big enough project and if you add it to another project, then you have to add all the federal government guidelines to it, and then it really cost prohibitive. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the village manager? If not, then let me read the first agenda item. It is a workshop for council action regarding strategic planning initiative for village support for schools. Looking for desired outcomes, the village's role, best practices, a direction, and if there's any funding involved, what that might be. So with that read, then I'll turn to each one of the council members, and let's start with Councilwoman Sharp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm trying to speak up so they can hear me when they record. We do a lot. I'm really proud of Royal Palm Beach and what they do regarding our schools. I was curious, so I took a look at the new budget from the school district, and they just passed a $5.66 billion budget that'll go into effect on 7/1/2025. And so they didn't get beat up real bad by the state legislators, which made me feel much better. My goal in my world, what I'd like to see is, like I said, 2 to 3 youth added to the Education Advisory Board so that they can become more exposed to civics and what we do, so they can learn about what we do. It's imperative. If we realistically think about it, we're not going to be here forever. So I'd like to have somebody online that could take my place so I don't have to come in when I get 108. That's important. And the Civics 101 that Wellington has with the Youth Council, I really like those two things that the village manager talked about. I am very happy with the amount of money that we donate to education. And so therefore I can say I don't see in my mind where that needs to increase. I don't see that. Knowing more about our schools to me is also imperative overall. And that's why I asked to find out, what it is they need. And I agree with the village manager. He's right. Because if you ask an open-ended question like that, the answer probably come back, well, we'll take $1 million. But that's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to open that door. I just wanted to see if maybe they, and you're right, I should have been focused and said maybe they would be interested in saying, okay, we would love to see the civics and the kids working with the Education Advisory Board. Those are the things that I think are important to me.
That.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Councilman Velenis, initial thoughts.
One of the things, I forget which one it was, I think it was Lantana that the village manager mentioned, I think could be a particularly helpful thing here in Royal Palm Beach. And that's, I don't know if it's just us as council members or maybe taking a role in promoting it, but participation in SAC. I could tell you I've been a member of the SAC at the high school for several years, and unfortunately the participation, especially between the last 3 years and a lot between this year and last year, has really dropped off. Unfortunately, a couple of our meetings we couldn't have because we didn't have a quorum. And unfortunately, then you can't get business done, and that's, unacceptable to me. I can't comment because I haven't been on the SACs at the elementary schools or at Crestwood. But, I would like to see that as something we can perhaps do and focus on. It really doesn't cost us any money other than, time, and have volunteers willing to, get involved. I guess it's easier for me because I've had children at the high school for the past 5 to 7 years. But it is good to be in touch with what's going on at all the different schools. Another one that Ray mentioned was I think it's really important, but I don't know how to do it, is the tutoring aspect. I think, if we could get the opportunity, because one of my kids was a student who, he did need tutoring. I don't want to take away from the businesses, because we went and did, private tutoring and it helped him. But not everyone had the ability for parents to pay for that tutoring. So if we could somehow help or boost that, I don't know what, because I have Fred in the back of my head keep saying, we're not going to spend money on education. They have their own budget. It's so big. I'm not that far on Fred's side, but I do. I mean, it resonates in my mind. These are two different entities, but I do think we have a vested interest in making our schools succeed. So tutoring is another way I thought that would be good. And I'm sure we'll hear a little bit about it in a bit, but at the strategic planning session, and I don't know how it would flesh out, but I thought Adam made a really good idea as far as, recognizing our teachers. I mean, we've got a shortage, and I know, various professions like nurses, but teachers, these are critical people for the, success of our society. So if there can be something along those lines, I don't know what that would envision, and I'm sure Adam could elaborate on that, but those were the three things I was looking at, Mr. Mayor.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And there's your introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have some prepared remarks, and I apologize. They're hopefully not too long. So a recurring theme in our strategic plan is to ensure we keep our community a great place to live. One way to keep our community great is to ensure all of our schools have the best teachers. I think some of you guys have already heard this, right? Strategic plan, but I'm going to repeat it again. So like clergy, council people, longtime business owners, librarians, and coaches, teachers create a sense of community. Many of us remember when we were children that the thrill of seeing our own teachers when you're out at the local store, at the supermarket, and the thrill and the smile they would give you. Admittedly, I was a little worried sometimes what they would tell my mom, but that was okay. It was still great to see them. Now, as a father, with my own daughters, when we ran into their teachers, it filled me with a sense of hope, and not just hope, but excitement and gratitude that the teachers my daughters had cared so much about them that they lit up when they saw them. And that really made the community feel like a smaller community, a great place to live. Having A-rated schools leads to increased home values, increased salaries for students in the future, and reduced crime rates. But we can only have great A-rated schools if we have great teachers. However, as Councilman Valencia has pointed out, fewer students today are choosing teaching as a career, driven away by low pay, rising living costs, and the general loss of respect teachers are experiencing overall. The teacher shortage has been a reality for over a decade, and the pandemic added to it by causing many experienced teachers to retire early. This means schools across our county and the nation are jockeying to keep the great teachers they have and to hire the few that are coming out of our colleges of education. I would like to ask that we ensure we keep the best teachers here in Royal Palm Beach by encouraging them to work in our village through recognition and support. I have a few suggested strategies I'd like to talk about that really don't cost a lot of money at all. The first focus on recognition is Royal Palm Beach Teacher of the Month program. Annual recognition for our teachers that hit a career milestone, such as teaching for 20 years in Royal Palm Beach, or 25 years, or 30 years. Welcoming tours for our new teachers, showing them around, showing what resources are available, as well as informing them of the resources available to the students that they're going to have in their classrooms that they might need help as well. And the last one of my own ideas, I'll get to the ones Mr. Ligon shared in a second, is also to designate teacher-friendly businesses. And what that means is if a business provides a teacher discount, if they become a business partner with a school, if they adopt a classroom, if they participate in Teacher Appreciation Week or other things, we could name them a Royal Palm Beach teacher-friendly business. We could give them a digital badge. They could post on their social media and their websites. We could give them a sticker or decal. Those don't cost a lot of money for their window, and designate them as that teacher-friendly business in Royal Palm Beach. Possibly maintain that list on our website as well. I'd like to thank our village manager for reaching out to those other municipalities and getting those ideas. Those were great. A few kind of resonated with me. I'll just share. I love the annual auction, the school auction for the mayor for the day. I don't know, for some reason though, I had the dunk tank in my mind when I read that, and I don't think our mayor will agree to that, but I do like the mayor for the day and helping fundraise.
We like that.
Seems like a manager one. I say the manager tank, he's in charge of day to day.
I think now.
I did not suggest the manager tank.
All right.
I think our mayor wants me to.
The mayor of the
move
day, but the dunk tank.
I did hear that 2 of the municipalities participate in the career fairs at their schools. I think that's great. We have a lot of great employees that do a lot of other great careers that I think our students and our schools would love to hear about. 2 of the municipalities talked about the members of their education advisory councils or boards being liaisons to each school or members of the school SAC. I like that. And then recognizing teachers during Appreciation Week. And the final one is esports. Kids love esports. There's a lot of kids that stay at home playing esports and not getting out. It's if we're able to support an esports program in some way, that might be helpful to engage our students more. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Miller, Councilwoman Rodusky.
Okay, thank you very much. We've heard a lot of good ideas. I will be honest that as we prioritized during the strategic plan, this wasn't one of my top. I thought there were some other ones. But having heard all of our ideas this evening, and at some point I would like to know what our residents said when it comes to financially supporting the programs. But if we can look at no cost support, that would be great. And I don't have an answer or a suggestion, but in all the ideas that we heard, I didn't hear any about involving the parents, getting them connected, because really that's the other leg of that stool, right? You've got teachers, you've got students, but you've got parents. How do we motivate them to participate at a higher level so that our teachers do feel appreciated? Our students are being more invested. So can they participate in Civics Day? For sure, right? Can they participate in Career Day? Having parents maybe do Read for the Record for the little ones. Maybe there's a program through the high school, student-led, that can work with parents on tutoring some of our students, depending on what their expertise is. So those are just a few ideas I thought about, but I would really like to see us, if we're going to do anything, make sure that there's a role for parents to play.
Okay. Thank you for that. And so let me share some of my initial thoughts. First of all, the whole idea about the better the schools, the better the community. Absolutely no doubt about it. That was said, and I think we all agree on that. When I looked at the 2 agenda items, I kind of distilled them down to what I had in mind anyway, as we were having those conversations during the strategic planning meetings. And for the first one, my goal in taking that on was to say, is there some way that we can enhance civics education? You know, we hear so often so many complaints. And then if you don't hear the complaints about the inadequacy of civics education, go ask some millennials, go ask some generations earlier than us, some of the basics. And quite frankly, it's disheartening, at least. And so the thought that's always occurred to me is, well, who knows better what the reality of civics is than those who are actually involved in it. And so I think we have a lot to offer in that regard. And we heard some of the different approaches that Wellington and others have used to engage the members of the council and staff in various things. I can give you an example from Florida League of Cities, for example. One of the things they do, and we see them at the annual conference every year, is they have a youth council format that they encourage any and all municipalities to engage in, that basically provides an experience for students in actually mirroring or basically taking on playing the role of the village council from time to time, and actually engage in real issues. And someone told me the other day that it's always amazing to me how they will come up with ideas that none of us who have been engaged in doing this thing will even see. So there's great potential benefit in what I think is possible through the youth council activities. And the really good news is Florida League of Cities has got the format. If nothing else, we can plug into some of the ongoing existing programs that other municipalities are doing. But I think it's important, and that's a great way to educate. There are other ways to educate. You know, again, going back to Florida League of Cities, every year in October, we have what is referred to as Florida Cities Government Week. And once again, the league provides formats, templates to be used by any members of the council or staff to go into the schools under that particular heading during that particular week and engage in appropriate places within the school with the students. It's a great experience. I've done it once, and it is well worth the time, well worth the effort. And again, it's about civics education. It really is. At the same time, you're engaging with the schools and with the students. And we touched on it a little bit. The more insight that we get into our schools, I would say the better advocacy we can offer. I mean, when you can talk from real experience to support, advocate for a school, you can make a huge difference in actually generating support and interest. And in that particular case, or in that particular area, it's a particular issue for us here in Royal Palm Beach, for two of our schools in particular. They both have, shall we say, they have challenges in the area of image, in the area of reputation, in the area of the word on the street kind of stuff. And we have a platform just by virtue of what we do. And so the better educated we become about our schools, better informed, the better advocates we can be, so that when we see words out there that are not correct, that really damage the reputation or make it difficult for even some of the best of activities to be overlooked simply because, well, what I heard was, I think we can make a difference. But in order to do that really well, we need to be engaged with the schools. We need to know firsthand what's going on in those schools. And so we can kind of get a lot of birds with one stone by stepping into some of these programs, like I said, to engage with our individual schools. And that's true at all levels. Obviously, we'd have to coordinate with the principal in order to do some of these things. But I think there's a tremendous amount of potential there. We've done well. We have good partnerships, and especially when you look at what all the other municipalities who responded provided, not a lot of difference. I mean, probably the most, it's interesting to me too, because I know of two communities that went to school, little pun there, went to school on us, but the Education Advisory Board. And one of them was Lake Worth. We didn't get that from them, but Green Acres, I think you mentioned, reached out. And so we've got a good thing going with that Education Advisory Board. I think it probably has more potential than it's realizing right now. We have, I'll call it version 2.0 that we're currently in, that really encouraged more individual engagement by the individual members. And so they've been assigned liaison roles for each one of the schools. We need to just get them up and moving. And that's up to kind of like the chair or maybe myself to encourage them. But the potential is really great. And I think the Education Advisory Board can serve us well in a number of different ways. And I guess as a set of initial comments that that's pretty well it. The one other thing somebody mentioned to me the other day was internships. You know, whether that be staff internships. The idea was more along the lines of during the summer. But I will tell you, I had an intern. You got to put quotes around it because we didn't have an internship program. So I don't know what we call that exactly. But about every Saturday morning before an upcoming council meeting, we'd sit down over Madison Green Clubhouse and I'd bring out the packet. It intimidated me, certainly intimidated him. And I'd walk him through it. And it was an interesting experience for both of us. And I think that's the way you get the youth engaged and interested. So there are just so many approaches. I wouldn't know exactly how to structure all of this. I do know the youth program, youth councils is a really good idea. I think internships is another good idea. And then encouraging us up here and also the staff to engage career days, as somebody just said, is another powerful way to get into the schools, to share what civics is really all about in practice, and to become more familiar with those schools so that we can advocate well for them. So those are kind of my initial thoughts on agenda item number 1. Any additional comments? We obviously want to come up with a kind of a consensus as to what kind of direction we want to give to the village manager, the staff, with regard to that first agenda item. There's specific questions that are posed there too, so that might be another prompt, but any comments, any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Adam.
Hi.
You were talking about appreciation for the teachers. You know, they have the Thank a Teacher program in the school. I've done that. You fill out the form and they give out the prizes every week to the school district and sponsored by HCA. So I just wanted to mention that. It'd be nice if we let more people know that existed. Just an idea.
Thank you. Other thoughts?
Yeah, I like your idea of looking at the agenda prompts here, starting with the desired outcomes.
Okay. We can certainly kind of walk through those if
Yeah, I think that would be good.
All right. So the first one on the first agenda item, of course, is desired outcomes, which I guess another way to say what is the intention of the council, if you will, for
Well,
this effort?
what does the result look like?
What does it
right,
look
at the
like?
end?
Exactly. Yep.
If we,
Anyone care to weigh in?
Well, I think one of the things that is kind of tied to two, and I'm not a big believer in the whole rating system. I realize that just because your school has, I mean, everyone wants A-rated schools, okay? But there are some things that work against certain schools and certain criterion. So, hey, you know what? In my opinion, there are some B schools out there that are better than the A schools. So I think, you know, the goal is obviously, yeah, we want all of our schools to be A schools, but to me, one of them is getting them to be the highest rated school they can be, given the fact that I know it's good for the community, but I'm not necessarily sold that the be all and end all of a school is whatever rating they put according to this formula, because there's a lot of forces at play when they come into those ratings. So, but that's one of the outcomes I would be looking for, Jan.
Okay. Any other comments?
For me, a desired outcome, it wouldn't be a quantitative, possibly more a qualitative outcome would be that the teachers here in West Palm Beach feel appreciated, recognized, and they want to work here in our municipality over other municipalities.
Okay. Any other ideas about the outcomes look like that we would like to see?
It would be more communication with the principals and those in leadership positions with the schools. Determine just what the issues are that we can have any effect on. And then the students, again, getting them more involved. That's an outcome for me.
So to address that last comment, and you've made it a couple of times, and I've written it down in my notes as well. It feels as though we have an incomplete picture without input from the people who know best, which are, as you would know, being a former principal, the principals, the captain of the ship. And so I think we do need to find a way to engage them in this discussion to say, basically, how can we help you? I mean, now that and as the village manager said, we've got some parameters. We've got some, I hate to use the word guardrails, but something that kind of keeps it contained so it doesn't get wild and crazy. The principals I know from our schools here, I would not use the phrase wild and crazy about any of them, quite frankly. They are hyper professional and very, very capable of focusing because they're familiar with managing resources and all that kind of stuff. So this is a good first step, but I do agree with you that we need to engage with them and find out what they think would be best. This is still a healthy thing. It's a great starting point, and that's the way I see that. So any other desired outcomes?
Again, I would like to see us figure out how we're going to increase parent participation.
Okay.
And when we ask the principals about what they want, within those guardrails and the things we just talked about, not a blank canvas about what they want. Because I don't want to, I don't want to have expectations we can't accommodate.
So basically go to the principals or the school and say, here's our parameters or what we want to do. Do you have any ideas to help us reach our goal?
All right.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Good idea,
Sounds
Dan.
good.
And with the civics and with because we basically listed the things we like to see worked on, and those are the items that you give to the principals.
So just a quick piece of feedback. One of the things that I think is kind of funny, but pretty obvious, talk about engaging parents. I can promise you that at an education advisory board meeting where oftentimes the principals will bring their students in, you got to get here early to get a parking place. Okay. It's a great indicator, by the way, because if you drive in and you can't find any parking places, you know that they're going to be student performing. That connection is so powerful. It is so incredibly powerful. One of the values of the Education Advisory Board that was never, I think, stated anyway was, yes, it is a great communications platform, but it's also a great engagement platform because we see that at every meeting. It is incredibly powerful, and we can build on that. And that's a good starting place for seeing what else we can do to increase parent involvement.
Well, I love that. And I'm glad that they show up and pack the room. I've seen it. There's a perfect opportunity to whatever little project we put in place, give them a call to action on that evening. So if it's elementary school and it's H.L. Johnson night and we're ready to do Read for the Record in the month, recruiting those parents at that meeting would be a good thing.
Great idea.
And along that, sorry, Jan.
No, I was just going to say, and how we connect to those parents, whatever that night is and whatever the event is that's appropriate for them, and doing a call to action for them and getting them to sign up right then.
It's a great way to leverage that.
Involving the PTA and the SAC,
Yes, yes.
because it's not a complete thing. It'll be a collaborative effort.
Okay. Were you going to say something, Rich?
Something, one of the, when it talks to the principals, and this was not in my report because this is something that we do, but it looks like we're trying to get on the other side of the fence. We do meet with the principals every year, and we do ask them what they want as it relates to our business and their business. Other than the traffic circulation on the school property, we don't go any further than that. We do meet with, we actually do when it comes to the police department and responding to an extreme emergency. We have a lot of coordination when it comes to that for access and for, first responders and things like that. We do a traffic circulation plan for every school, and we do meet with every principal every year and kind of define, here we are, the city, we're in your city. That's how road improvements around the schools get decided. That's how sidewalk improvements get decided and all that. So we do that, and we do it as our regular business. We just don't go inside the fence.
Want to talk about the village role? Yes. That's the next item. Village role. Anybody have any vision of what our role, both as council and also staff, might appear to be? What we would like to see.
One of the things I just came up, and this would be a policy decision whether we wanted to do it or not. But Adam's suggestion regarding, teacher shortage and all that kind of stuff, if we agreed and thought it was a good idea, maybe have 5 more scholarships for people who are going into the teaching profession that live here in Royal Palm Beach. I know people can always game the system, but I know there's certain ways you can do it to make sure, hey, that you get this $1,000 like all the other ones. And as long as you go, you start into a teaching profession after you're done, then you're good. You get to keep the money. And if you're going to, go be a political science major and not teach, that might be a way to help, not only keep local people more likely. That doesn't mean they're going to stay here. They could teach in Boca or in Wellington, but doing a little bit to help the teacher crisis, Adam was saying, that just popped up in my mind. And at the meetings the manager was talking about, I think, I'll beat my drum again, is at the Education Advisory Board meetings, see what we can do about soliciting the SACs that we need help in. I know that they're typically much more involved and engaged at the elementary school level. I'm experiencing dire needs at the high school level, and I'm guessing, I haven't reached out to Principal Nance, but I'm figuring it might be the same at the middle school level.
Okay. Any other?
Nope, that's it.
Any other ideas about village role? Yes.
Suggestion on scholarships brings me to the sponsorships that, like FPL does sponsorships, presenting that idea to businesses within Palm Beach County within Royal Palm Beach, for them to sponsor those 5 extra teachers, those 5 extra scholarships for people going into the teaching profession. And you're absolutely right regarding the high school having needs, because I have 2 mentees at Royal Palm Beach that I actually work with.
Okay.
I would be willing to, do more of that.
And so more engagement, I think, is kind of a recurring theme here for all of us in a variety of ways, and having some ideas about kind of the vehicles to be able to engage is hopefully kind of an outcome of this that would define our role basically as a village going forward, trying to support our schools. Best practices, we already ran through a bunch of them. Actually, if you look at the backup material for agenda item number 2, it has the list of responses from the Citizen Summit. So that information is here. And it's interesting because a lot of it is kind of a restatement of what we heard from other municipalities. And here's mine. I scribbled on it. Do you all have it?
Excuse me, Mayor, mine's much easier to read.
So when I look at this list, though, I do see a lot of overlap or a lot of a restatement of it. We talked about developing tutoring and enrichment educational programs. Another comment that was made was enhanced mission and charge to the Education Advisory Board to identify issues and develop solutions. One of the things we talk about is at each one of the individual meetings with each individual school is how are you doing regarding your performance? Right down your alley. And they, of course, will overwhelm you because there is that driving metric kind of behavior and with the metrics. And what's most important is for each one of the ones that needs work, each one of the schools has a program, has a plan, and they have a deadline, they have a date. And I don't know whether that's driven by the school district or just good behavior on their part, but it gives me some assurance that while we are looking at kind of a high level kind of a thing, they are looking at the depth of how to try to make that turnaround and happen. And that would be some of the input I would like to hear from the principals. So is there anything we can do to help you out? Please don't think money. Think about how we can help you out in any of those areas, whether it be reading and the idea of reaching out to the Literacy Coalition, seeing what we could do there, because we do have those connections. And there are all kinds of possibilities. Anyway, anything else on that one? Best practices, like I say, we went through them. I think we've already kind of pulled out some of the best practices that we thought might be useful for us. And the word direction and funding, or that phrase is there. I'm not sure what to do with that. What we just did, I would like to think, looks like direction. Hopefully it feels like it to our village manager. Do you need something more from us about some of the ideas that, and maybe the direction is, can the staff come back to us with draft ideas of how we might be able to implement some of these things? I'll pick on my favorite, the youth program.
We do internships now. We do hire young people. We get that information from Florida League Cities. I'll gather that information from those organizations and see what kind of effort is involved.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes, the education advisory board and council volunteering. It's the whole government, week. So
Yeah, it's a government week.
I don't know what kind of commitment is required for that.
And so that's the kind of feedback that I think would be useful to us, because we don't want to.
And funding for that matter. I'll ask League Cities that. Because I guess the question to the council is, I'll get League Cities, see what kind of funding and what kind of volunteer we need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then we put that in the council's budget. If we're going to do it, it needs to be in the council's budget.
I'd like to get some information on sponsorships, as I said too, because I know the League of City actually gets sponsorships. Well, there's FPOs,
Solicited.
right? So what's the process? The League of Cities would have those processes because they get sponsorships. Some of the schools get sponsorships, just like the sponsorships by HCA for teacher appreciation. If you want me to get them, I will. I do the funding, so.
I'm not sure I understand. What you're asking for is somebody soliciting funds to do something.
I'm asking for information on how to apply for or go about getting sponsorships for the things we're trying to do. Say if we're going to agree to do 5 more scholarships. Do we do that in our budget, or do we solicit and ask FPL to do 5 more? That's what I'm asking. And if we're going to do that, or we're going to ask a local business, what is that process going to be?
So basically, how
So somebody's
how
already-
can we beg
the
for money
school
to
district is already
do
doing
these
it.
things from
Right.
other entities?
School district is already
Ask
doing it.
Commission,
Right.
Yeah.
We are very limited in what we can.
yeah, as the government.
Right. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so I
So
want to see
They
the
set up
comparison.
nonprofits in Wellington,
He's
and they
not
set
gonna
up
let me
nonprofits.
finish.
We're not, we just haven't, we have restrictions, solicitation, stuff like that.
Right.
I don't know. I'll turn to the lawyer.
If we can get that information, not necessarily go out and do it, I just want to know.
So let me suggest if we follow up with what you just said. You suggested that you get an estimate of the resources required, and if any of them are budgetary, you'll include it in that is the council line. And when we do the workshop, we can decide whether or not we want to follow through on that. And if somebody has an idea as to how to offset the cost with something along the lines of a sponsorship, I heard you about the ethics thing. I got it. But there may be a way, and I don't want us to take on too much at once. I'm guessing you don't want us to take on too much at once because we want it to be successful, and we also don't want to put too much of a burden on the staff. Initially, we're opening up. Okay, and one of the ways to figure it out, of course.
I don't have any assistant managers. I literally don't have a single position, but I can get into the cities. I can figure out the resources necessary.
Perfect.
We do have lots of consultants.
Right.
And we use consultants for grant writing and things like that.
Mhm.
So we can figure it out.
And we have some of that expertise in-house among us, as well as reaching out to the volunteers. And so, yes, okay. But we then, right, exactly. We need to have something that we can put our hands on and say, this is what we're thinking about doing, this is what we think it'll take, kind of thing. That'd be great. Okay.
Sorry about that.
So none of that was recorded. You're gonna have to start all over again. Okay.
Mayor.
Let me summarize what the village manager just said. Okay, so I think we've covered all of those elements of the first agenda item. Anybody have any other
I
comments?
do,
Yes.
because I think I need to get some clarity.
Okay.
How many things are we pushing on the village manager to go research? Because we talked about youth program, we talked about the youth council, the civics education. So I'm not sure how many elements we're talking about initially.
So I heard you say 3.
Yeah.
I heard 3 over here. For me, I'm good with those 3 because it does the increased engagement, provides structure. The thing that's most appealing to me is it utilizes existing templates and programs to plug into, which takes some of the load off us trying to create it. So are there?
So the idea would be we have a youth council that is created that then can participate in the Florida League of Cities youth program, civics,
Yes, that's my take.
the civics.
Mhm.
Okay. Is it possible, because I understand the staffing situation within the council, within our government, and is there a way to have the Education Advisory Board take on part of this as what they're doing? And shift, not giving them more,
Right.
but maybe shifting their focus away from being a liaison to each of the schools and feeling that pressure to go to all those meetings, but maybe they put their heads around what does a youth council look like? How would it function? Do we add 2 or 3 youth people to the Education Advisory Board because do we still have the high school senior class president as a liaison to the board?
Yes.
So maybe we involve a couple of others, one, a junior, a sophomore, freshman, maybe
Right.
4. And they start to develop what this youth council will look like.
I think it's a great idea.
That when we first started talking about the advisory board, adding those 3 students, so the board.
It sounded different from me,
Yeah,
Sylvia.
I'm sorry. That's exactly what I said.
I got your back.
So some time ago, go ahead. I was just going to say, to follow up on the Education Advisory Board thing. I'd written down, in fact, when I was campaigning, I talked about EAB version 3.0. I just said a moment ago, 2.0 is what we're doing right now, where we did create the liaisons. They weren't there before. The idea of enhancing, upgrading reconfiguring, that's a really, really good vehicle. It really is. And what you just said about maybe doing a trade-off on some things rather than just adding, because we don't want the Education Advisory Board members to run for the doors.
Right.
Is really worthwhile for us to spend some time trying to develop what we want that EAB to do. Now, we operate based upon call them bylaws. It's actually a resolution. That's what drives the current version of EAB. Maybe we could do some work on trying to develop a 3.0 version that would grab a hold of youth council, for example, because I think that's a great one. It's very appropriate in a lot of ways. And then see if, again, from a workload point of view, but also from a community involvement point of view, it's a great combination of things, I really think. So how do we go about that? Do we turn to, who do we turn to do that? I mean, I know I got a pen. I know how to mark stuff up, but
I think that's a good place to start, actually.
I can do that and see if we bounce it off our attorney and our village manager.
I'm going to get the Florida League of Cities Youth Council information. That's where I was starting with that.
Right. I understand that. That's the details of it. What we're talking about, or at least what I'm thinking about, is another version of the Education Advisory Board. It's going to look a bit different. It's going to have somewhat different objectives and somewhat different procedures for pulling it off. Focus on the Youth Council, which you'll provide, that information from Florida League of Cities, and that'd be great. Okay.
You want me to get any information from any of the other ones, their write-ups?
And so, from the other youth councils?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
That would be helpful.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I have some clarifying questions. First off, I love the EAB supporting the village manager. I get it, right? Staffing. I love EAB 3.0. I just heard that talking about there was 3 items we were going to look at. I just want to get clarity. Is that what 3 items are we talking about that the village manager was going to follow up with us on? I hear youth council. What are the other 2? Because I thought we talked about a bunch of items here, and I get it with time and staff, and I get it, but want to make sure some of the other ideas don't fall off. So what are these other 2 items?
You mentioned 3.
I think they were bundled, right?
Okay.
So the youth council will then help create whatever that the Florida League of Cities youth program is, and figuring out how our participants in our EAB youth council will participate in the Florida League of Cities event.
Okay.
And then I heard Civics Day,
Okay.
a standalone. That may be, if we just tackle the first 2 and put the Civics Day on the back burner until we can figure out the first 2, that may be easily digestible by all of us.
Sure. So say again the second one.
It was the Florida League of Cities Youth Council Week, or whatever
It's actually
Cities Youth Council. There was the City Government Week.
City Government Week.
And
Thank you.
And they were the 2 things I got to get the research from them, those organizations. There are already programs in place with all the detail, and I'll get all that information.
okay.
So once we have that, then the 3 things that actually were potential coming out of that were civics, education, internships, and career days. Were the kind of 3 subsets.
May I address Councilman Valentis's idea about scholarships? I love the idea of focusing our scholarships on specific careers. I don't suggest we add more money to our scholarship program, but maybe designate 3 for teachers or 4 for teachers and 3 for maybe young people who want to go into government, right? Public administration.
Good idea.
Civics, and then the last 3 be.
Large.
To that.
Yes, please.
I know that when I went to orientation with all my kids, one of the things they said at orientation is stop asking your kids what they want to do. Everybody asks them, they're freshmen, give them a chance. They'll get to make that decision when they're sophomores, towards the end of their sophomore year. And so they're purposely not locking kids in the first year. I mean, we're giving these scholarships to kids right after high school. I don't know that they know what they want to be teachers until they're middle to the end of their sophomore year. And that's when they have to start applying for the specific programs, whether it be engineering, teaching, or whatever. But they don't have to do that until the end of their sophomore year.
Then don't apply to
You
the
just
teacher
gave me an idea.
scholarship, Ray. Don't apply to the teacher scholarship then.
So
Programs that are set aside,
The
like the
colleges-
law, the high schools, they have the law program, like, one of my mentees has actually been accepted to,
You're right.
Aeronautical University. So like with her, she's already made up her mind. She's gonna be aeronautical
so I just went through 15 interviews.
Yeah.
It's all over.
And I will tell you that at least half of them really don't have a firm grasp of what they want to do.
And that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought what we were striving for was coming out of middle school, you have to have a resume, you need to have a career path. Personally, I think we got a little crazy on that, but that's just me.
They told us to lighten up on that.
Scholarships. We had difficulty getting 15 for our 10. When you start to put these into career focus kind of a thing, it's going to make it even harder
Correct.
to get applicants. And while I love the idea, at this moment in time, the practicality of it is just that. We had 15 and it was a
I can
struggle.
appreciate all of that. That's true. But I love the fact that it's true, right? You start to identify what your major is going to be when you're a sophomore,
Mhm.
right? For sure. If you are undecided, by the time you're a sophomore, you have to decide for your last 2 years. Maybe we think about changing up the scholarship to give it to sophomores in college because they get a lot of scholarships their freshman and sophomore year. They don't really have a lot for junior and senior year. And maybe we don't limit it to what their profession is, but maybe we encourage them to come back to Royal Palm wherever they are in college.
Well, a lot of the money has been cut for the incoming students. Don't forget that.
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea, Janet, and I support it. It's just, I think getting the first year, getting you in there, and then once you're in there, and if you know you're going to be a student, you'll find the other money sources. But yeah, that is a great idea that, hey, not only can you get $1,000 to get there, but if you want to do one of these things, then you could get another $1,000. It's just something to look at, but
Yeah, I don't have to make any decisions today.
To move on because we do have another agenda item. While it's similar and it's going to overlap in a lot of ways, I think it deserves
Mayor, I'm sorry,
specific
I just have
attention.
one more question. I'm so sorry. I'm just
Go ahead.
lacking clarity. Maybe this is my first board workshop, council workshop on the council.
That's not unique to you.
It's not unique to me. So we talked about a lot of ideas, right? And then I think I'm hearing that we're going to focus on 3 of those ideas. Is that correct, Mr. Manager, what I'm hearing?
Well, I'm going to get the information from Florida League of Cities on their youth council program, and I'm going to get it on the City Government Week program. And then from that, we're going to talk in more detail about those 2, the youth council and the government week. And then look at how civics education can work into that, potentially internships and career day.
Okay, so straight on honest, I believe that teacher recognition is something we should not drop off of the list because I think this is going to be really important for our municipality in the future years. I'm wondering, our mayor mentioned EAB 3.0. I'm wondering if some of the additional ideas that maybe we can't handle this year, next year, whatever, maybe be shared with EAB to work on as part of the future work, such as how to recognize teachers and make them feel welcome here.
and that makes sense to me as well. I would support that.
Okay, great. And that fits nicely. And actually, our next Education Advisory Board meeting is this coming Monday. We can put that on the table for them to be thinking about as we take a break for summer with the challenge to come back with some really solid ideas or even just just bring some ideas with them about teacher recognition, how we might go about doing that. And if you have any specifics, and I know you did mention a couple,
Mhm.
I can prime the pump with those at the Education Advisory Board meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. And a lot of these things will, like we said, civics education internships will, I think, be byproducts or embedded in or part of the process of Florida City Week and also City Government Week and also the Youth Council. So sounds good. Okay, great. So if we can then move on to the second agenda item, which is workshop for council action regarding strategic planning initiative for A-rated school strategy. The items that are seeking clarification are problem analysis, village role, desired outcomes, direction, and village actions. So once again, well, let me start down with Councilwoman Rodusky for just some initial thoughts on that, and we'll move down the line.
I would say I'm really curious about the problem analysis and figuring out what's the background and the context for our not A-rated schools. I know some of it, but I'd like to hear it articulated. Again, from the strategic planning session, I found other things bubble up to the top for me in terms of initiatives, so it was not one of my top initiatives.
Okay. All right. Councilman Miller.
I think I'll just say ditto to everything I said for the first agenda items. I think it would count for the second agenda item as well, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Melendez.
I think one of the things we could do, and this is just a matter of, paying attention or involvement, or what we'll be able to do is, and I know, Mr. Mayor, you've been doing this for years, is the celebrating the successes and accomplishments of the rural Palm Beach schools. I know I saw, what was it, underwater robot stuff or whatever you were attending, and you know what? That's a good thing to see instead of, a teacher came to school and that gets the media attention when he comes to school. So we shouldn't have. Changing school boundaries, I know that was an issue years ago, and I don't know if there is, what or if there's anything we could do about it. I guess we can always advocate and say, hey, make this more, copying our village boundary, but my understanding of the way they do it is that they have their purpose and they've got the power, so they've deemed our boundary what it is, but that doesn't mean, we shouldn't give it up, because I have heard that concern or complaint over the years. Working with the school police, I'm absolutely for doing whatever, we can to help, but again, the school district has the lead in that and funding. And so I guess that's it.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Sharps.
I'm still on the principals thing, I'm sorry. Number 10, improving the image and reputations of Royal Palm Beach schools. That would be a principal tell us thing. Clear objectives and a list of clear objectives to the principals to say, what can we do to help you? Or what do you want from us? What would you like to see regarding improving the image and reputation of Royal Palm Beach schools? Increasing parental involvement with schools, because the principals know, with PTA and SAC. Developing the tutorings. You all talked about tutoring. That's a principal question. So I'm saying here, clear objectives and questions to those principals, because they know the pulse of the school. All of us as parents know the pulse of the students, but that's a different subject. That's what.
Okay.
Can I offer a comment here? When listening to Jan and the questions and comments that she made, it kind of dawned on me. I know that the school ratings is a very, very elaborate matrix. And maybe we should know about that, before we go any further. I mean, maybe we need, I know they have probably a department at the school board that deals with just the ratings of the school.
And every school works towards the certain things at their ratings to boost these things so that their ratings can.
I know they have reams and reams and reams of
I
data
did
that
learn
they
that at
keep.
the SEC.
And I think it can be explained very easily.
And
All
those-
the different categories. I don't know how many categories are. My understanding there was somewhere around 10, maybe
There's
9.
That's on the level of the school, but.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And within those 9, there's very specific. And I think maybe if we had a better understanding of that, then maybe we could better target what we can do.
And wouldn't more of that information come directly from the principals? Because they know what it takes to make their
I
school
think
an
it's
A
administration.
A
I think
school.
it's Forest Hill that's,
Okay.
I think there's a Forest Hill department
we've
and
got
Adam
a-
could.
We've
I
got a
think-
built-in expert over here, so
I
would
think
you like to talk?
I think there's a Forest Hill department that does that.
You want me to do it right now?
Well,
So
Do you deal with that?
I do deal with that.
That's
That's my main
his
job.
business.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
probably have to get a staff member to come present though to us. So, yeah.
So let me advocate for the principals. If they don't understand it, I'm not sure that my understanding is going to make me any better able to determine what kind of help they need. I gravitate to the principals. And again, I've sat through 10 years.
Oh, I'm not disregarding the principles. What I'm saying is we get educated
To
on
know what we have
matrix
to do.
so that we can better listen to the principals.
Right, but it would be a different perspective, and that might help us to figure out exactly how we can help them. Again, I've sat through presentations, and the depth and the rigor is breathtaking. I worry that there is so much involved in measuring how much teaching education is going on. And I say that as having taught for 5 years. And I know what the administrative burdens can do to a teacher in a classroom, which is why I stopped at 5 years, because I didn't want to have to deal with that anymore. And that wasn't anything by comparison with what they've got going on right now. I have no problem with asking for help to understand that. I think it would be useful. But again, hopefully the principals have a pretty good grasp of what they need to do. And when I look at their Get Well programs, I'll use that phrase. Man, it is really precise. What it comes down to is what Councilman Miller was talking about, and that is in the classroom. In the classroom, have you got the people who know how to make a difference in those areas? Because at the end of the day, the results are going to be from the classroom activity.
If I could add, Mr. Mayor, I don't disagree knowing the school grade rules is important for the council if we want to make a change or make a difference. But the principals, the teachers, district staff, they know the job well. I think our village manager said it really well. Like, I think he used a metaphor like what's inside the fence and outside the fence. You know, looking at areas for us to support from outside the fence. And again, I'm going to fall back on recognition of teachers and making them feel welcome here. I think is hugely important. I don't know how much we're going to get, how far we're going to get with the council going too far into those rules, but they got it.
Okay.
You know, happy to do it though.
And we are fortunate because we do have the expert in that area. So I'm sure you can get us something that would be helpful.
If we're looking at spending resources, whether it's financial, human capital, then I think you're making the decisions with those dollars now, and you have to understand them to make them best work for you.
I think that's an excellent point. It really is. And again, like I said, we're very fortunate because we have a live-in expert here. So let me just make a couple of comments about agenda item number 2. The way I look at this, the goal for me was to find out, and I think we've said this, how the village can actually assist Royal Palm Beach schools attain and maintain A ratings. One of the things that I think is useful to know, well, let's talk about the ratings. So we got 3 A's, 2 B's, and 1 C. 60% of the Royal Palm Beach students go to Royal Palm Beach schools. Flip it around. 40% go elsewhere. One of our schools, well, I'm not naming it because I'm sure it's public information, is Crestwood Middle School. It's at 48% of the kids that are eligible to enroll in there here in Royal Palm Beach, 48%. Not even at the 60% level. Royal Palm Beach High School is 62%. My theory is, and I put this in front of the deputy superintendent, our district, our board member, and the district hierarchy in a Zoom meeting months ago. And I waited for them to tell me I was wrong. My theory is, if we can get more kids, more Royal Palm Beach kids to go to Royal Palm Beach schools, that will result in higher ratings. And I waited for somebody to tell me, no, you're wrong, because you really don't understand. Nobody has so far. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just waiting for somebody to explain to me why that goal of getting more kids, attracting more kids. We were talking about magnet programs the other day, village manager and I said, so most schools have magnet programs and it pulls kids away. So here's a simplistic notion. Well, our magnet needs to be stronger than their magnets. And part of what's going on is you got an IB program that is now being tweaked so as to survive what was a kind of a drop off in enrollment. And so we've got a creative, I think, principal at the high school who's found a way to connect in career path to IB program, keep it alive and energize it again. That's a unique thing. It's the only one in the Central County. We've got a Navy Junior ROTC program that does things like underwater robotics. Very attractive. There are a lot of good things going on in the schools. One of the problems that we have is back to the image thing again. Back to the image thing again. So when I say what do I think about how we can assist our schools, and in particular the high school and the middle school, I think it is with being knowledgeable enough about what's going on in those schools, what initiatives they take, what they have available, so that whenever and wherever we have the platform and the opportunity, we can actually be specific about that. And if we hear somebody in line at Publix talking about how I wouldn't send my kid to that school, maybe we'll engage with them, maybe not, it's up to you. People would say, well, that's one at a time. No, it isn't. It's that one engagement times however many other engagements follow that. I think we play a big role, the council, in being able to help with that image. So, I mean, in a nutshell, that's kind of where I am on this whole thing. You know, the rumors, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, maybe it was today, on one of the neighborhood social media Facebook pages, there was a comment about Royal Palm Beach High School and Crestwood Middle School. The statement was, well, as far as I'm concerned, I'd rate the high school 4 out of 10, the middle school 6 out of 10. This is not an unusual statement, unfortunately, and I don't know what we do with it. But my thought is, if the word on the street can have that kind of an impact as to create and reinforce an image which I don't believe is valid, but is hurtful, then maybe a different word on the street can counter it. Maybe I'm too optimistic, and I think we can help put that different word on the street. I mean, that's just kind of where I'm coming from on this thing. So I think that's probably all I have to offer on that topic. I think a lot of it, though, comes down to the more we know about our schools, the better we can advocate for our schools. And so
I'd also like to add that I've heard comments about it being too expensive to live here. And I've batted that down with data that I know of, because that in itself is a rumor that has been utilized by parents when making the decision where they want to live and sending their children to school. So the more we know about our neighborhoods as well, and the prices for real estate and rentals and things of that nature will also help to combat.
indeed. Any other comments? Yes.
Sure. I think these, you threw out a couple of statistics that I think are very interesting. One, the makeup of the schools of Royal Palm Beach students to non-Royal Palm Beach students. And then the magnet programs that we do have at the high school. And I'm curious to see what the overlap is between those two segments, right? So how many non-residents are coming to the schools because those programs are so good versus not enrolled in them? I mean, I don't know if we can find the answers to them.
Actually, I have that information, and I'll be glad to share it with everybody. I think it might be useful.
Yeah, I think so. But one of the things that strikes me is if we all think, the community thinks there's an image problem, the high school has to be aware, the middle school has to be aware that there's an image problem. I'm curious to know what they think they're doing for the image problem. We can't care more than they do. The parents can't care more than we do, right? They need to care more than we do.
Is that a question for the principal?
Absolutely. Well, I think what we needed to do is have this conversation first so that we actually know what we were going to ask the principals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments? And we can just walk through the specific questions that are posed there. Yes.
Last anecdotal thing is I'll throw a little shade and kudos the way of Councilman Miller. It's, I had 3 children. All of them went to school in nothing but Royal Palm Beach, but 2 of them did go to the Western Academy Charter School. One of them went to Crestwood, and I think a lot of that had to do with not only the options. I mean, all of them went to nothing but Royal Palm Beach schools, but in that number, are we talking just public schools, or are we talking the charter schools as well? Because it seemed to me, at least for, when my oldest went there, Crestwood didn't have a STEM program. They got a STEM program really quick, so that was great that the competition was working that way, but it's also an issue of, as Jan mentioned, the magnet schools. It's good to bring in from the magnets, from other communities to our magnet schools, but unfortunately, Suncoast, Dreyfus, if you could get into those, nationally rated high schools, it's going to be difficult to keep those kids there, especially if they're arts kids. So I think school choice might have something to do with it, but what do? You do like what Crestwood did. Hey, you see you're losing kids to the charter school because of lack of STEM. Do the STEM, do the things like we have our, HVAC and our and JROTC is great. So all of the programs we have at the high school, maybe, make it more attractive. And like you said, fight the bad press, because there is so much good stuff going out there, but good news doesn't get the attention. So thank you.
Yes.
That's that. I love the idea. You started it. Jan continued it. Rich did too. Advertising, right? You're able to stop, someone, in the supermarket line and talk about the schools. I think it would be great if we, as council members, had all the highlights, the good things about our schools. But I also think it would be a good idea if, I think Rich just said it, help putting the good word out about our schools, all the great things, the great programs that are here, advertising it in some way. I know after the Education Advisory Board meetings, there's a post put out, but it's just kind of like a bulleted list. It's like, of all the great things. I wonder if we took specific points about some of our schools and shared them out on a planned basis over some kind of cadence. I think that might be very, very helpful to help change the thoughts about our schools.
Okay.
Could we align it with the Education Advisory Board's reports that they're already doing? And maybe as we add students to that board, they get permission from the schools to get on social media specifically just for the school and say, we presented, H.L. Johnson presented tonight at the Royal Palm Beach Education Advisory Board, and here are all the great things that they said. That way we're putting it back onto the students, giving them a role to play on the Education Advisory Board and helping promote the other schools within the village.
So we do capture the the presentations, both in their actual form and also in minutes for each one of the, which, in case you didn't know it, my report is from that. Okay, that's what I read, the minutes basically is what, because the minutes are well done, and they have been over the last 3 or 4 years now in particular. It's a great source of information, as are the presentations themselves. We have the material, that's what I'm saying. It's there, and then it's a matter of figuring out, well, what can we do with it? What do we want to ask the Education Advisory Board to do? This is one that basically plays into the PR challenge. I think that's where the schools are facing, and that we may be able to help with. I just don't know if there's anything specific in this moment of time that we can do along that line. So let me touch on each one of these individual ones, and then we'll kind of try to wrap it up. Under agenda item 2, one of the questions, if you will, or areas to address to provide direction to the staff is problem analysis. Ray, can you talk to that? Was that something we said, or I don't know what that is actually. I mean, I know what it is, but I don't know how it applies. That's what I figured. Yeah. So we did that. Okay.
That's where I came up with the problem analysis.
Right. Oh, okay. So let's move on to the next one. Village role. Anybody have any thoughts about what our role with regard to A-rated schools as a goal might look like?
I think we kind of,
I'm sorry. Again, I say to develop those clear objective questions to give to the principals. Still saying that.
Okay. You were going to say?
Sylvia said something made me think about something else. I'll come back to me, please.
Okay.
I would just say, as it was mentioned, how many, what percentages of children, just be advocates. I mean, in the community or whenever we have the chance, it goes to spreading the good news and all the stuff we've talked about, but say, hey, people ask me, oh, where do your kids go to school? I said, well, 2 graduated from Royal Palm. The last one's next year. I mean, have you had any problems? I mean, there's problems at every school, but no, I haven't had any. I've never felt that my children are unsafe at school. And that's the thing. If you're not safe, you're not going to be able to learn properly. And I think we, need to get rid of that, negative reputation that, incidents have happened over the years. It's not the only school. Every night I saw stuff on the news tonight about other guys getting arrested that are staff members at different schools. And unfortunately, people do bad things. So, but just advocating for keeping our kids here. And, at heart, hey, if you got a kid who could go to Dreyfus and that's their route, absolutely do that. But, most kids aren't that. So.
And as it turns out, actually, part of the target audience really is the kids that aren't accepted at Dreyfus, the kids who aren't accepted at Suncoast. But believe me, those are really, really smart, capable kids. It's just that for circumstances, the criterion, whatever it might be, they only have so many seats. And so the good news is there are a lot of smart kids out there, a lot of very capable and motivated kids out there. So,
Mr. Mayor, I think, to answer your question about what the village's role, I mean, it sounds like we're talking about, Rich said it best, advocacy, just amplifying, all the good stuff that the schools are doing and helping them get the good word out. My oldest graduated from Royal Palm Beach High School 2 years ago. Great experience.
great. Anybody have any other thoughts on the village role in A-rated schools or assisting our schools in becoming A-rated and staying that way? How about desired outcomes? Sure.
What do the schools do about the image problem? Principals, give us that information. so you can advocate.
Right.
So I think that question needs to be asked of both of the principals. And then you had commented on the talking points. So what are they doing? And then what are the talking points? I think they're separate. I don't think they're the same. And then at least we can have that in our hands. That was, as far as role, that's the two things I got out of that, was asking that question of our principals,
Okay. All right.
two principals.
All right. Let's see what else we got. Direction and village actions. So one of the things we talked about was using some of these existing vehicles to engage with our schools. Florida League of Cities, one very valuable resource. Another is the Education Advisory Board. And I see the 3.0 version being something that can assist us with getting answers to questions like, so what are the schools doing insofar as the PR is concerned? What would be the talking points out of this? Help us, help you kind of a thing. And so, again, the Education Advisory Board just seems to be so well positioned and it's established. I mean, if you doubt it, just show up at a meeting, you'll find almost every principal shows up at almost every meeting. So clearly they find value. The school district is there. Our school board member is almost always there. And if we ask, we can get the superintendent and others. We have that unique feature here in Royal Palm Beach, and leveraging it, making it even more than what it is right now, I think is a great idea. So any other comments? You all ready to wrap up our first council workshop in 20 years? Just, I think it's historically significant.
What was the last workshop on? Do you know?
Yeah,
Was it Cypress Key by any chance?
Maybe 441, who knows?
Oh, Bike Path, okay.
okay. If there's no further business to come before the council, I will adjourn the workshop and thank you all very much.